Hey everyone, and welcome. We're jumping into a huge topic today, something that's really at the core of the Catholic faith, the Eucharist. So, what is it, and why does it matter so much to Catholics? Let's get right into it. If you're not Catholic, or even if you are, and you've never really thought about it, when you see someone receive communion at Mass, it looks like a simple piece of bread, right? A little wafer. But is that all it is? Well, the Catholic faith says there's something way, way more profound going on here. In fact, it's so profound that the official catechism of the Catholic Church calls it the source and summit of the Christian life. Think about that for a second. The source and the summit. That is a huge statement. So the big question is, how do we go from what looks like a piece of bread to the absolute peak of the entire Christian experience? All right, let's unpack this. Okay, so first things first, we have to get this one key idea down. For Catholics, the Eucharist isn't just a symbol. It's not like a flag representing a country. It's believed to be a reality. The word itself, Eucharist, is pretty cool. It comes from a Greek word Eucharistia, which just means thanksgiving. So in the Catholic tradition, it's seen as this powerful sacrament and also a sacrifice. It's all about giving thanks and, really importantly, entering into communion with Jesus Christ. And this right here, this is the absolute core of the belief. It's called the real presence. And what that means is that Catholics believe Jesus himself is truly, actually, substantially present. We're talking body, blood, soul, and divinity, all hitting under the appearance of bread and wine. So yeah, this is way, way more than just a symbol. Okay, so hearing this idea of a real presence probably brings up a big question in your mind, right? How? How does a piece of bread and a sip of wine become, well, Jesus? That's a huge question, and it takes us right into the theology behind it. The whole thing starts, as you might guess, with Jesus himself. It goes all the way back to the Last Supper. The Gospels tell us that he took bread and he took wine, and he said some very specific, very important words to his apostles. And here are those words from the Gospel of Matthew. "Take and eat, this is my body. Drink from it, all of you, for this is my blood." Now, the key here is that the Catholic Church takes Jesus at his word, literally. They don't see this as a metaphor, like this represents my body. No, they believe these are the words that actually created the sacrament. So, to explain this incredible mystery, the Church leans on a little bit of philosophy. It makes this distinction between what something looks like and what it fundamentally is. The appearances, what you can see, taste, and touch, are called the accidents. But the fundamental reality of the thing, its what it isness, is called the substance. So before it's consecrated, you've got the appearance of bread and the substance of bread. Simple enough, right? And that brings us to this big word, transubstantiation. I know, it's a mouthful, but the idea is actually pretty straightforward if you remember what we just talked about. Trans means change, and substantiation refers to the substance. So it's a change of substance. The core reality, the substance of the bread and wine, is changed into the body and blood of Christ. But, and this is the wild part, the accidents, the look, the taste, the feel of bread and wine, they stay exactly the same. All right, so we've got the real presence, and we've got transubstantiation explaining how it happens. But what does this have to do with the Catholic Mass, the main event of Catholic worship? Well, let's connect those dots. So the Mass is seen as a sacrifice. But this is super important. It's not like Jesus is being sacrificed over and over again. That's not it at all. Instead, the Mass represents, as in makes present again, the one single sacrifice of Jesus on the cross. It's almost like a time machine, in a way, allowing people today to be present at that one crucial event in history. And this is where the priest comes in. He plays a really unique and crucial role. He's believed to be acting in persona Christi. That's Latin for in the person of Christ. So when he says the words of Jesus from the Last Supper, it's believed that Christ is speaking through him, making that sacrifice present. That's also why he wears special robes, called vestments. It's a visual reminder that he's not just some guy up there, he's standing in for Christ at that moment. Okay, so everything we've talked about builds up to this one moment, receiving the Eucharist, which is called Holy Communion. And while it feels like a very personal moment between an individual and God, it's seen as something so much bigger. It's an act of profound unity. Now, this naturally leads to a question a lot of people have, inside and outside the Church. Who can actually go up and receive Holy Communion? Because it's such a significant act, there are some specific guidelines. So, to receive communion, you need to be a Catholic who's in what's called a state of grace, basically not aware of having committed any major sin. But it's more than that. You have to be in full communion with the church, and that means you believe what the church teaches. It all comes down to that word union. Receiving communion is an outward sign that you're in unity with the beliefs of everyone else sharing in it. And St. Paul puts this idea of unity so perfectly. He says, "Since there is only one bread, we, though many, are actually one body, because we all share in the one bread." See, it's not just about you and Jesus. It's about how this one act binds an entire community, the entire church, together into one body. It's supposed to create and strengthen that unity. And that really brings us full circle to this final thought from Pope Francis. He says, the Eucharist pulls us out of our own little bubbles, out of our individualism, to live and walk together as a community. And I think that leaves us with a really powerful question to think about, especially for believers. Is communion just a private, spiritual moment, or is it something that's meant to fundamentally change how we live and act together as a community of faith? Something to really chew on.